that in this difficult time, that people are really worried about the impact of Donald Trump. They're worried about attacks on our country. They're worried about the increase in uncertainty. They're worried about the trade war and what that means for their jobs. And so at this time, we should be making people the priority. And what we're seeing, though, from Mark Carney, sadly, is not that. He's made the priority giving a massive tax cut to millionaires and proposing $43 billion in service cuts to you and your family. I think that's the wrong thing to do. His recent decision, though, one of the first things he did as Prime Minister was to reverse the decision on changes to capital gains. The way capital gains works right now is if you are working hard, you're a nurse, a teacher, an electrician, a plumber, you work hard, your entire salary is taxable. But if you sit at home and sell shares, only half of the money you make is taxable. So if you're sitting at home and selling shares and make $200,000 a year, only $100,000 of that is taxable. The other is tax-free. That's unfair. That's inherently unfair. And the Liberals provided a measure to change that a little bit, just to make that a little bit more fair. That would have raised $19 billion over 5 years. A measure that we could have used that revenue to invest in people, in infrastructure like the hospital behind me, which is in desperate need of investment. But instead of doing that, Mark Carney wants to give a tax break that's mostly going to benefit people who earn over $1 million a year. And that's the Liberals' own numbers. The Liberals defended this idea, saying that it is fundamental to building a more fair society to move forward with the tax change that says that we should have more fairness. But now they flip-flopped on that, and instead Mark Carney is giving a tax break to millionaires. But on top of that, to make matters worse, he's also saying he wants to cut the services that you need by $43 billion. So I'm going to challenge him in the debate. Say, why do you think it's the right thing to do, particularly in this time of all times, to cut services by $43 billion and give a tax break to millionaires? Those are the wrong values. That's the wrong priorities. And so if you want someone that's going to fight for you and your family, you got to vote for New Democrats. You got to vote for this incredible team behind me. New Democrats are committed to fighting for you and your family, are committed to a tax system that is more fair, to investing in you, investing in the services that you need, not giving tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires, but investing in everyday people. That's what you get from New Democrats. And we know that Ottawa works best when one party doesn't have all the power. Ottawa works best when you send strong New Democrats to Ottawa fighting for you. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Nous allons maintenant passer à la période de questions des journalistes. Une question et une relance par journaliste.
One question, one follow-up.
En français et ensuite en anglais.
We'll start in French.
Questions from the press, one question, one follow-up per journalist. We'll start in French and then in English. On va débuter avec Valérie Gamache, Radio-Canada.
Let's go to Radio-Canada. Welcome to Montreal. This morning, Honda announced that it could be transferring a large part of its Canada production to the U.S. Do you think that at this time Canada should get rid of the counter tariffs to save those jobs? This is such disappointing news because it's going to mean the loss of many jobs, thousands and thousands of jobs. If it goes ahead, it will damage our auto sector in the long term. So this shows why we need to continue to stand up to Donald Trump and get these tariffs removed. Many jobs are being threatened by this trade war. There's an entire sector of the auto industry that is threatened, and we've seen it in other sectors as well. Here in Quebec, tariffs on aluminum and steel are continuing to have impacts. So this news demonstrates the importance of doing whatever we can to get these tariffs removed.
Yeah, this news coming out of Honda is deeply concerning. This is potentially going to impact thousands of jobs in Canada and have a devastating impact on the automobile sector for the long term. And so it really highlights how we need to really fight back and get these tariffs removed, make sure that we can strengthen our automobile sector. We know that many sectors are being impacted, not just the automobile sector. Here in Quebec, people are still feeling the impacts because of the steel and aluminum tariffs. So it really highlights how important it is for us to fight back and for us to take care of those workers.
Et comme je comprends que vous voulez qu'on conserve les contre-tarifs, est-ce qu'il faut apporter une aide financière à Honda pour
So should any financial assistance be provided to Honda to keep their production here in Canada? We need to think about whatever tools we can to protect jobs and keep factories in Canada. So I'm open to considering options. But what is crucial at this time is that we continue to stand up to Donald Trump to get these tariffs removed, to defend jobs in Canada. And this highlights also the importance of thinking about how we can have a strong economy in Canada. The other thing that we've proposed, if a company wants to sell vehicles in Canada, it needs to have a presence in Canada and jobs in Canada. Because we have a relatively big market. If you want to sell cars in our country, you need to have jobs in our country. That's one measure that we can put in place. Next question from La Presse. Last week, Mr. Carney said he wanted conventional Canadian energies to dominate the energy market. He would like to mine hydrocarbons and continue to sell them for decades after 2050, so after our zero emissions target. What do you think? Should we continue to extract hydrocarbons until the last drop? Thank you for the question. In our future, it is renewable energies. It's clear that we have a climate crisis. In the past, we've spoken about the potential climate crisis, but now we are in the climate crisis at this time. We're seeing forest fires, flooding, extreme temperatures. We've already gone through that. Here in Quebec, people have experienced that and have seen the impact of climate change. So we need to take action. What we can do as a country is that we can have an enormous presence in terms of renewable energies. For a long time, the New Democrats have spoken about a power line that would connect the country using clean energy, using the hydroelectricity we have across the country. We have a lot of renewables, and for me, that's the future of our country and of the world. Is there any space for oil in Canada after 2050, for example, or is that some point do we need to stop that, or do we go until we get the last drop? I think that our country's future is a future of renewable energy, and we need to do more and invest more to make that a reality. I recognize the importance for workers when we have workers in all sectors, but the future of our country and the world is a future of renewable energy. We need to invest more to make that future a reality. Next question.
Oui, bonjour. Comment comptez-vous aborder le débat
How do you plan to go to the leadership debate without presenting your economic plan? All the other parties have not presented their plan either yet. We will deliver our plan. But there are a number of issues on which we can debate, particularly the issue that I brought up today. The fact that, unfortunately, Mark Carney is proposing to make cuts to the tune of $43 billion in this care and services we need. How can he do that, especially in these times of uncertainty, where we're seeing a potential recession and all the problems that we're dealing with? How can he justify massive cuts like that? And the Liberals as well, the former House Leader, Karina Gould, said that Mark Carney's plan will mean massive cuts. At the same time that he's proposing massive cuts in the services that we need, he also gave a massive gift to millionaires, and it's completely unfair, and I will question Mark Carney on his priorities, that he has the wrong priorities for Canadians at this time. There are many issues that we can debate. the fact that we have a housing crisis and that he profited from that crisis as the chair of his company.
The
fact that he profited from a crisis. Given that, how can we imagine that he will resolve that crisis? I will also challenge Mr. Poilievre, who believes that Canada needs to be more like the United States. It's a proposal that Canadians and Quebecers are rejecting. We want to defend our country.
Merci. Now in English, we'll begin with Olivia Stefanovic, CBC.
Good morning, Mr. Singh. You were warning about cuts that your opponents would make. With the government facing a large deficit and economic turmoil because of tariffs, is there any area of government that you would identify that you would cut yourself?
Absolutely. The distinction I make is I would never cut services that people need. In an economic downturn, you don't cut your way out of a recession. You make investments. But you certainly cannot cut the services that people need. In times of uncertainty, people will need those services more than ever. And so what I'm proposing, though, is we end the things that are wasteful. One of the things that I would propose immediately is to end the fossil fuel subsidies. These are billions and billions of dollars that are wasted because we're giving it to highly profitable companies. That is a wasteful expenditure that I would end. Conservatives and Liberals put it in place. New Democrats would end it. In addition, I just gave an example of the $19 billion expenditure that Mark Carney made within the first week of becoming Prime Minister. He gave $19 billion away to millionaires with his capital gain flip-flop. This is $19 billion that not only hurts the federal revenue, but also hurts provincial revenue. And provinces need investments in things like the hospital behind me. So there's lots of things that we would do differently, but we would not cut services. We would cut other wasteful spending like fossil fuel subsidies and tax breaks for millionaires.
And I just want to follow up on the question about your costed platform. Why haven't we seen one yet from your party? And can you give us a specific date for when?
Yeah, my team will follow up with a specific date, but we'll get that out as soon as possible.
Thank you. Next question, Abigail Beeman, CTV.
On your capital gains announcement, this was a policy so deeply unpopular that the finance minister who introduced it scrapped it in her leadership bid. And part of the fear was that it would drive away investment from Canada at a moment when we're under threat from the U.S. Why bring it back?
I reject that idea. First of all, the entire Liberal Party was in favor of it, was defending it, said it was a great thing to do, and then all of a sudden flip-flopped on it. So I think that they did the wrong thing. We've seen that the only way you actually guarantee investment in the country is by having strings attached. Giving blank checks to companies does not actually create investment, and we have proof of that. We saw during the pandemic when companies made massive profits,